Art style theft is an issue that has been complained about in the community for years. Differing opinions on the topic have just been regurgitated for the past probably 15 years now. Some saying it exists, others saying it doesn't. Personally, I think it's a little bit of both. And I think it's important to keep that nuance in mind when you're engaging with these more pedantic dramas of the art community. I'm Saba Black Sheep. Have you any soul? No sir, but today I'm gonna be discussing the long-held issue of art style theft and other dramas of this nature that have just permeated itself into art community history. Recently, I've seen a lot of issues from like 2016 and the DeviantArt days around that time, kind of returning with the age of TikTok and the new people and the new younger people joining the art community. So it's interesting to see how these long-held dramas are interpreted in today's environment. Honestly, I just think as most of us that were in the community in 2016 have grown up and kind of moved on from a lot of this, our proverbial younger siblings of the art community are taking up the mantle of why do you care about that? Younger folk will always reinvigorate and rekindle the fire of spite over random things. But I won't be calling it completely idiotic throughout the video. I do have some points that give some credence to the whole concept of like art style theft. But before we get started, consider checking out my webcomic Penelope's Peon. If you like character-oriented writing like Disco Elysium and that general darker aesthetic, you might really like it. You can check it out on Tapas in the link below. If that doesn't tickle your pickle, consider joining the Patreon to get weekly exclusive Discord streams where I draw whatever you want. Or just join our 17+ Discord server to meet a bunch of cool artists and get your art in the next video. But without further ado, we begin. The topic of art style theft has reared its amorphous head over the past few years. Things like the jelly art style sparking the widespread conversation. Those of you who don't know the jelly art style, it refers to this: an art style characterized by young women rendered in this kind of moist, plump pastel aesthetic. Puririka is the artist responsible for said style. Swear to God, I don't know how to pronounce her name. I'm half tempted to just call her Paprika, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. Puririka is a talented artist to popularize this trend, and people liked the style a lot, so it started to get replicated. Puririka even made tutorials on how to render their work. So people started integrating it into their art, to the point it got labeled as the jelly art style rather than Puririka's art style. Which, honestly, I can empathize with a little. You spend so much time refining your art, then it becomes divorced from your identity. Though I don't think the actions she took were wise, I think none of us should pass too much undue judgment on her. Having empathy for her, yet also understanding her mistakes, is important. Empathy merely puts situations into context. It doesn't necessarily mean inaction. Puririka started telling people to stop copying her art style, and showing her large audience, smaller creators, recreating it by putting them on blast in front of thousands. This naturally just led to the unneeded harassment of random beginner artists half the time. How are art styles made? Someone want to take a guess? Well, shocking, it's by experimentation and exploration. Beginner or younger artists will often replicate art styles they love to learn from them. As time passes, they take aspects of what they learned from your art style and apply it to others. That's why, though I empathize with Puririka's frustration, I think she set many artists back by being so possessive of her artistic process. I think all involved need to kind of stop viewing themselves as the center of moral light. Puririka creating a moral issue out of her insecurity, causing young artists to get unduly criticized, then viewers that tear Puririka apart for having said insecurity. A lot of people think so highly of themselves but lack the introspection to know that half the people criticizing Purivrika would have done the exact same in her boots. It's normal human flaw, and that's okay. The only drawback is when you're a giant, it's harder not to step on bugs. Meaning the normal human flaws that are inconsequential to us in our day-to-day small little human lives get exacerbated when you have a platform, as your words hold more weight to people, thus resulting in situations where beginner artists were getting harassed. This doesn't mean Purivrika shouldn't take responsibility. If anything, it means she needs to, and to come to terms with that fact. Her actions have different implications with the eyes of thousands on her. People in these situations need to widen their perspective and realize they can't win a battle of egos with thousands of faceless people online. Honestly, I'd argue art style theft is good for artists. Finding an artist you like and recreating their style down to a T can really help someone understand the balance of stylization. And staying with said art style for a little bit is totally okay, as it allows you to deconstruct it further as you continue to mold the art into your own characters, preferences, and concepts. It'll change over time to fit you, then from there someone will copy yours, and thus the cycle repeats itself. And to be frank, a lot of this is mostly a subject discussed in non-advanced and non-professional art spaces. I'm of the opinion that, hey, if you have the ability to replicate my style, it's all yours. Like, you earned it by that point. And I'm sure most professional artists would feel similar because pro artists are often the status quo to emulate anyway. Most more realistic art styles are hard to emulate, so when they are, it's more like patting someone on the back for climbing the same mountain as you. Cartoon styles are so highly stylized that they tend to be the point of contention, since the style is normally not that hard to recreate. Art styles are so tethered to the artist's identity that it can feel invasive when people take it away from you. But to be frank, that's irrational, and it's okay to feel that way, just don't act on it. I mean, my more realistic art style shows a part of my identity too. Realism-based styles are just so much harder to recreate that if someone recreates it, honestly, it's their own style. By the end of it, it's already changed from its original form. Now, there's oftentimes many cases of style discourse based in the lack of progression in beginner artists. Many artists get oversubscribed to the concept of styles, that it hinders the form of their subject. This causes things like a few years ago some kid drew eyes too high on their character's head and claimed it was a style choice. And to their credit, they did draw that trait consistently on most of their figures. But nonetheless, it still looked off, but pretty good for a teenager. However, they got harassed off the internet for this. People kept making fun of them, excusing it as critique, and honestly, undue critique or unasked for critique is just annoying. Just shut up. To be frank, people are allowed to not want to hear it, or not want to worry too much about being the best artist they can. Guys, I don't know how to tell you this, but life isn't a shonen anime. People don't need to endlessly fight to be the top dog. There are plenty out there that will. Personally, I align myself with someone that is always looking to get better at the craft I care so much about. However, just because it's the central point of my value system doesn't mean it's a universal moral trait. I've noticed so much of the online generation looks for moral issues in innately amoral environments. Playing around with someone's art style isn't morally dubious, nor is drawing something that looks weird and ugly. To be frank, if you want to be a hater behind closed doors. That's amoral rather than immoral. In small little friend group chats, I see little issue with y'all giggling amongst yourselves that X, Y, and Z looks weird or is bad or whatever game theory you birth from it. But commenting that type of stuff is socially uncouth. Many people often have no idea what it can be like to be on the other end of hundreds and hundreds of people harassing you. And when I say harassment, even a comment like, "This looks weird," on a stack of other mean comments can just be the cherry on top. I often hear people say stuff, "I wouldn't do that, man up, they're just words," without realizing their volatile commenting history just makes them more likely to stoke the fire against them if they were ever put in that environment. That's all to say, the lack of introspection is what's fueling these pedantic dramas. Just keep in mind before commenting something, consider asking yourself, how would I react if I got this comment? If someone responds negatively to this comment, how would it affect my day? And finally, how could this comment actually change the reality I'm criticizing? Your voice is important, very much so. That's why I think it's okay to comment on issues you're passionate about. However, use that voice with reverence. Your voice may matter, but that doesn't mean your every thought needs an ear to perceive it. Anyway, that's all I have for today, folks. If you like my art, consider commissioning me. You can reach out to me on Discord. Instagram, for some reason, isn't letting DMs go through despite them being open, so switch into mostly Discord. Either way, you got work tomorrow, or school, or commentating on the dramas of our ancient art past. But as always, don't dream about wheat-based byproducts. Moi, je m'appelle Mademoiselle Noire, et qu'on va pour la voix,